Hi guys. Today, as you could probably tell, there is Hooche. He is back, and something that I've been requested, or something that's been requested quite a lot on this channel, is actually a guide for Hooche and what's worth, what's not worth, and honestly, whether or not Hooche is a scammer. For today's video, though, I'm not going to talk about whether or not he's actually a scammer, but go over the items in the shop and what you should be looking for and what is worth, well, purchasing. The first thing we have to talk about, though, is the hero summon ticket. Now, I don't know how in any feasible universe this pricing is 60% off, but being 60% off and costing 2,100 skystones is not just a scam, it's highway robbery. Definitely don't buy either the hero summon ticket or the artifact summon ticket. Just because, number one, the cost of this is absolutely ridiculous, but also because, well, if you get something like Fire, Balantazan, Tenebria, all these old characters that don't really have any places in the more meta or the more important kind of side of epicseven right now, if you get one of these tickets, you're going to be miserable. Especially, or if you get one of these characters with these tickets, you're going to be miserable because of the price. It's 2,100 and 1,500, and that's after the 50% off. Now, regardless of what Hooche throws at you, whatever Hooche wants to, try and sell you or persuade you, these are two of the most not worthwhile things that you can probably find in the shop, just because you can get something that you don't want and it's completely random. The next thing we have to talk about, though, is the molagora. Now, honestly, I think the molagoras are actually pretty worthwhile. And given the price of, well, one molagora being 250 and the 4 total molagoras being equivalent to something like a week's worth of skystones that you would gain from Champion Arena, this is actually pretty worthwhile if you're really desperate for molagora. Now, I do want to say that with things like the Grace of Growth and even the the inclusion of more and more events that give you molagora in general, it doesn't really feel like you necessarily need to buy the molagoras out of this store anymore. However, if you're desperate for it, or if you really, you're really just out of maxing a skill, or if you really need certain skills to, well, for instance, get higher effect chance, then by all means, feel free to purchase these molagoras. I won't stop you, but as always, use your own, well, research, kind of planning, and look into it more for yourself. And it's more dependent on your account anyways, so do with that what you will. The next thing, though, that we should talk about is the galaxy bookmarks. And although this feels a little bit more shiny and appealing, and oh my gosh, it's only 960 and you have a chance to get a Moonlight 5-star, this is maybe tied with the other tickets for being some of the biggest scams in the game. Now, again, if this were a Galaxy bookmark that at least guaranteed you a 4-star or something like that, I could maybe understand. But Galaxy bookmarks in general just feel so awful to use. Just because if you get something like a 3 cost or a 3-star, and honestly, even if you get 4 stars, not getting a guaranteed 5-star Moonlight summon for whatever cost really feels terrible. Part of the reason why in the gold transmit shop, people don't purchase things like the 4 to 5-star summon ticket with golden transmits instead is because, well, being given even a 4-star doesn't feel that good. That's not to say that the 3 stars from the Galaxy bookmarks and getting an Elson is much better, but at least with one you get the chance of a Moonlight, and the other is, well, a guaranteed 4 cost, which is like whatever. Not to mention that most of the RGB 4 stars are pretty bad. Enough talking about the summons, though. I'm sure you guys understand that the Galaxy bookmarks are not really worth it to purchase, especially for this cost. But let's talk now about the equipment reset materials. Now, these are the new kids on the block, and they're hotly contested, and a lot of people kind of go back and forth about whether these are worthwhile or whether they're not. And I'm here to give you my opinion, which is that, guys, they really aren't worth it. Now, this isn't to say that if you get these or you can buy these from something like an event shop that you shouldn't, but for the cost that they're putting these at, it feels really, really difficult to justify purchasing. Now, I'll use the previous comparison that I made earlier regarding a week's worth of Skystones comparison, and just imagine that, again, 7 days worth of doing arena or, maintaining and getting champion, 7 days worth of arena is roughly the value of 1 mana stone. You know what I mean? And the thing is that these reversion mana stones don't even guarantee you like a slight upgrade. Not saying that they should, by the way, but just with the way that they work and how they function, they can only be used on certain equipment, and they can only revert, well, they can only revert you back to what you had previously, which is base, and they don't guarantee any level of stats otherwise. Now, again, I get it. If you get these things, it does feel good. Or if you have something really, really low rolled, it could be enticing to try and pull off, or to try and pull off the grand heist and get a 100 equipment score piece of gear. But in 99% of cases, for the cost that you're rocking right here, this is not going to be worth it. The next thing we need to talk about, though, are the hero promotion ingredients, and that includes the Awakening and the Ascension potion elixirs, whatever you want to call them. Now, about a year ago, both of these were pretty worthwhile. Being able to upgrade your elixirs and being able to, or I guess enhancing your allies or upgrading your characters without needing to spend too much time in things like unrecorded history or having to, God forbid, do something like a farm for Stigma was kind of nice. But with the changes to Stigma and with the changes to, well, the dog system, the minion fodder system in the game, these have kind of lost value in a sense. And the main reason for that is because with a lot of activities now giving you an abundance of Stigma, and with them basically giving us Stigma for existing now, it feels like things like the Potion of Ascension and the Awakening Elixir are kind of, I don't want to say useless, but even more luxury than they were before. Now, as someone that has definitely spent on occasion at the start to try and get Awakening Elixirs and Potion of Ascensions because I felt that upgrading characters was too expensive, these have definitely taken a hike in terms of value. Formerly, I would definitely say that especially the Awakening Elixir was game-changing because it saves you catalysts, it saves you runes, and it feels very good in general not to have to wait weekly on catalysts and stuff like that in order to upgrade or unlock a certain character's level. But even with the introduction of new, even with the introduction of new features like being able to daily summon or daily catalyze more catalysts in the sanctuary more frequently and more commonly, it feels like the Awakening Elixir, despite being one of the better between the two of these upgrade materials, has also lost value. Now, with that being said, for all of the things that I just mentioned, including the Mana Stones, if you want to purchase them, again, by all means, I'm not your financial advisor. I'm not your dad. If you would like to purchase these things for whatever Skystone price you want, feel free to do so. But for now, I want to talk about what I actually consider to be the most impactful and best value things in the shop. And as I move my camera over, that's going to be these Mystic Metals and the Hooche's Lucky Chest. Now, the thing is that the Hooche's Lucky Chest, I don't have the exact items that it has access to, but put simply, regardless of what shows up in the limited Hooche shop, and that's not talking about these things that are guaranteed to always show up, but these time-limited ones, regardless of what you purchase or what comes out of this Hooche's Lucky Chest, it will always be worthwhile or greater value than what is found in Hooche's Lucky Chest. Or rather, what you find in its chest will be greater than whatever is time limited or can potentially come out of here. You can get things like the blue conversion chest, you can get leaves, you can get summons. Whatever you get from this chest is always valuable, and given that it's only 80 Skystones and literally exactly roughly 1 week's worth of arena currency to get some of the most valuable and high value assets from this chest, it really is by far one of the best things to purchase. But then we have the Mystic Metals. Now, I will preface something to you guys right now. If you are someone that Skystone refreshes, or if you use the secret shop to refresh constantly, you may find yourself believing that the Mystic Metals are not worth it. And depending on whether or not you feel lucky or not, Mystic Metals purchasing Mystic Metals from this might not actually be worth it. And even if you get something like the limited Mystic Metals, maybe it really isn't truly worth it to do it, assuming that you're willing to refresh. But personally, I would get carpal tunnel by the time that I figure out how to do Skystone refreshing to a more efficient state. And for any other method, guys, I'm telling you, there's risks, there's boredom, there's everything in between when it comes to trying to Skystone or secret shop refresh. If you choose to do that, by all means, feel free to do so. But me personally, I feel like I will likely get hit by lightning or get run over by a car by the time that my Skystone refreshing is worth it, specifically for me. However, if you are someone that wants to do that, I can definitely vouch for Skystone refreshing being worthwhile, especially with the secret shop. But I then understand why you may also consider the mystic metals not to be worth it. However, if you are someone like me who maybe Skystone refreshes once in a while, but otherwise mostly just buys out and purchases whatever from the banners whenever possible, it does feel like these mystic metals here are worthwhile because otherwise you don't really have that many good sources of mystic metals. The only other sources that you have are things like, well, events when they give it to you, the Moonlight Theater, which is also decent because it does give you 50 medals per episode that you watch, but also Guild War. Now, if you're in a guild or in a guild that has, well, put you in a fortress and you're able to yield or gain a bunch of hits and you get a lot of defense wins, then hey, by all means, the Mystic Metal thing might be a great strat for you. However, for most other players, if you're just getting something like, what is it, maybe at most like 240 Mystic Metals from Guild Wars a week, assuming that you're winning, then it kind of feels like these Mystic Metals need to be considered a bit more, because not having access to Mystic Metals through any other means makes this makes this Hooche's Bargain Bonanza Mystic Metal opportunity way more worthwhile. However, for me personally, I think if you really want to get down to the very bare bones of it, the only thing that's ever worth buying that is permanently always here in the shop is the Hooche's Lucky Chest, specifically because, well, you gain access to potentially higher value items as a result of it. But for me personally, as someone that doesn't Skystone refresh or shop refresh nearly as much, I would consider the Mystic Metals to then be my second choice. Now, these other things, or there are other things that show up as limited time items to purchase, and while these are pretty worthwhile in general, depending on what shows up, I totally understand that certain things are just not valuable unless if you are someone that was already spending money on the game. This includes things like if a blue conversion chest shows up, or even the differently priced Mystic Metals. If these, or if either of these end up showing up in the shop, I can definitely see why maybe veteran or more hardcore players would go out of their way to buy these, and if you're more free to play or casual, they would not be worth it. Now, this isn't to say that one or the other side is right, but it's more a product of how much or how willing you are, or how much Skystones, or how many Skystones you're willing to put into the game. Now, truth be told, if you're pulling for every single banner, or you're trying to pull for every single character, and you're on the newer side of the game, it'll be damn near impossible to buy some of these things from the Hooche shop, just because you have to deal with limited characters coming out, a new character that isn't a limited, but if you don't get them like Cannaaaa, they may as well be limited anyways, because the only way for you to get it is by being super lucky, or by force summoning them 6 months later on a story summon banner, which again, 6 months to gain access or to get a guaranteed banner for a character might as well be limited. I digress though, because of course you can always get them from like random summons and RGB summons, but the point here is that what you consider worthwhile for the limited time purchases is completely up to you. But if you are a more hardcore and pushing or climbing kind of player, I would definitely recommend any of the Mystic Metals, any of the leaves, and any of the blue conversion chests. But if you were casual, I would maybe consider the Mystic Metals at most if you're really desperate for it. Otherwise, don't buy any of them at all. Anyways, though, guys, that was a quick, I apologize if I rambled, but that was a quick overview and summary of the Hooche shop and what's worth or not worth buying. Thanks again for watching, though. Hope you guys learned something. If you didn't, feel free to leave me a comment in the comment section letting me know what I could do different in the future. Thanks again for watching, though, guys. I'll see you all next time. Stay safe, stay healthy. Good night.